Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome here to our Annual Press Conference 2014. I'm very pleased to have here with us today Fabrice Bregier, our Airbus President and CEO, Günther Butschek, our Chief Operating Officer, John Leahy, our Chief Operating Officer Customer, and Tom Williams, our EVP Programs. We will start right away with a best of video of the year 2013. And may I ask the photographers to please get seated again. We will have another photo call at the end of the press conference.
I'm very pleased with what Airbus achieved in 2012. It was a great year. Airbus focusing on speed, on agility, on simplicity, on decision making, and the last point, on innovation. We'll be sealing the largest single order ever recorded by Airbus to date, both in terms of value and the number of aircraft involved.
I'm delighted to be here today with all of you, whether in Toulouse or in Hamburg, to celebrate our 100th A380 delivery.
Je suis heureux d'être ici aujourd'hui pour recevoir les clés.
Good morning, and welcome to Airbus's special live coverage of the first flight of the A350 extra wide body.
We're just waiting for the big moment. This is really the beginning of a great day.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
We are still flying around about 13,000 feet, just over the northern part of the Pyrenees. The weather is beautiful up here, the views are good, and more importantly, the airplane is behaving extremely well.
法国空中巴士新型长城节能客机 A350
Ein Buchstart, nur wenige Sekunden beschleunigt die
passenger plane, the Airbus A350 landed successfully on Friday after completing a 4-hour maiden test flight.
Ya está bautizado. 4 horas de vuelo sobre Francia y el Atlántico para que 6 tripulantes
wird der neue Langstreckenflieger unterwegs sein, um in verschiedenen Flughöhen das Fahrwerk, Landeklappen und Ruder zu testen.
this is the first time Japan Airlines places an order with Airbus. It is the first order from a Japanese airline for our A350 family. This is Airbus' largest order for A350 this year so far.
Je vous parle depuis le poste de pilotage de l'Airbus A350 XWB. Nous sommes tous très heureux d'être au rendez-vous aujourd'hui. L'avion démontre des qualités de vol exceptionnelles au troisième vol.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome and Happy New Year to you. You could see a lot of things in 2013 which were not only very active, intensive year, but also very, very successful, I believe, for Airbus. You will see the numbers in a few seconds, both in deliveries, in orders, in also globally the progress of the company, the operations of the main developments, especially the A350. I think we delivered at least what we expected, and in some cases, like orders, clearly we overachieved our initial targets. I start with the orders, and of course John will give you much more details. The orders, we got 1,619 gross orders, which is an industry record. We got 1,503 net orders. You see them? No? So, which is also an industry record. We had a book-to-bill of 2.5 this year. We not have that every year, but it's a fantastic achievement, which confirms, first of all, that the market is very positively orientated. Second, that our products are matching the requirements of the airlines, and that we are leading the show both on single aisle and also wide bodies. We have 51%, I think, gross market share, 53% net. Compared to the previous years, we had a previous record in quantities in 2011, which was 1,419 net, largely thanks to the launch of Neo. But this year, we had no launch of new aircraft. And in value, the last record was in 2007, probably with the launch of the 350 XWB, and it was 181 billion in catalog price, we have achieved $240 billion in gross and 225 in net. So record year for us. And of course, the next slide, please. Oh, I do it. Yeah. This is comforting the order book of Airbus and our leadership. What are the strategic orders we are talking about? For me, every order has an equal importance. Whatever the size, this is what makes in the long run the reputation and the growth of Airbus. However, you can see here a list of the most prominent ones. I would just limit myself to the first two. Emirates, 50 A380s. This is the biggest order of A380s, and it confirms from our biggest customer on the A380 that this is really what Tim Clark says, that this is the best aircraft to capture growth. And the second one, you could see that in the video, Japan Airlines has ordered 31 A350s, and this is clearly a big breakthrough for us in Japan. We had already sold aircraft, A380 to Skymark, and also a lot of A320s, but this one is clearly a big achievement, and we believe this has a strategic significance for Airbus and for the positioning of the A350 in the new long-range market. Deliveries now, 626 deliveries. Most of them being achieved before Christmas, so we were not in the running mode of 2012 when we were struggling with supply chain deliveries, so much smoother. 38 aircraft more than last year. Again, this is, I think, the 12th consecutive year of growth in deliveries in Airbus, and 10 years ago we were delivering half of this number. So when we tell you that we say every 15 years, but I have the feeling that it is going even faster. The market is doubling in size. In 10 years, we have doubled in size. This is, I think, a very strong message. Now the backlog is above 5,500 net aircraft. It means it's with the current production rate in 2013, this is even close to 9 years of production. Of course, we'll continue to increase the deliveries year on year, but this is an extremely healthy backlog, which is explained by the success of the Neo and the 350 family, but also by the 320 CEO, the 330 and the 380. We should not forget Airbus Military, even if it's probably the last time I mention it to you. As you know, that this activity has been formally transferred 1st of January to Airbus Defence and Space. Just to tell you that with Tom Anders, we integrated at that time EADS CASA into Airbus in 2009, just to rescue VA400M, which was in deep crisis. And we had the challenge to turn around this program and to deliver it to the customers. And this is what our teams have achieved, and I'm very proud of this achievement. So 2 aircraft are now operational. The French Air Force has deployed one just before the end of the year to Mali. And I'm very pleased to transfer this military business to my colleagues of Defence and Space in good shape, and I'm sure they will take that over and complement with their skills in military applications, in support to export, and it was really the right move in 2009 and the right move in 2014. Back to the 350, you could see many videos. Yes, this program is progressing well. I think it's a strong indicator of our internal performance. This is and will remain a very complex program. But I set a target, October 2012, to achieve a first flight because I believe we were mature enough before Paris Air Show, and the teams not only did it, but after that carried out many flights for the development of the aircraft. I think they have achieved more than 200 flights, 800 flight hours, probably much more now. One aircraft is was in Bolivia last week. We are progressing to the certification, which requires 5 aircraft in flight, so 2 are in flight. 2 others will follow soon, probably around the end of February. And this one so far confirms a pretty good level of maturity for the development aircraft. You can see the livery of the MSN2, which will be the first equipped with a cabin. So it has been painted and is in the final phases of equipment and testing. We have also the first customer aircraft, so the MSN6, which will be delivered to Qatar Airways, which has started, you can see that, the assembly line process with the joining of the fuselage sections. So we are well on track as far as hardware, as aircraft is concerned. Clearly, a program is not limited to first flights and assembling aircraft, and we are carrying out in parallel a lot of tests, many ground tests. I would like to spend a minute on this one, which is called as the ultimate load test, meaning that you simulate 150% of the maximum load that the aircraft will ever sustain in its complete life. And so you can see that we pull the wings with these loads up to 5 meters bending. So this is the last one. We don't start with this test, of course, we go progressively. And we carried it out just before Christmas break, very successfully, meaning that first, it didn't break. Second, there is a very strong correlation between the results of these tests and the results given by our simulation models. So we believe that the structural elements will be delivering what we expected. Here you can see the MSN1 in Bolivia. What did we want to test? Simple, high altitude takeoffs and flights. It was performed very successfully, and now the aircraft, I think, is flying to Martinique, to Caribbeans, to test different weather conditions. In about a week, should go to Canada to test very cold weather conditions as well. So also all these environmental tests are essential to get the certification. So we are on track with our objectives. Our objectives are very simple: certification in Q3, entry into service in Q4 to deliver the first aircraft to our first customer, Qatar Airways. However, yes, we are continuing to de-risk the program. We are on track with our targets a year ago, but it remains, it's not a surprise, it remains a very high priority for Airbus, a very big challenge, and 2014 will be a very intense year for the program. Certification, delivery of the first aircraft, appropriate level of maturity, preparation of the ramp-up, also detailed design of the Dash 1000, and clearly the next challenge will also be to look at the recurring costs and address all the actions which are necessary for us to focus on the convergence of these recurring costs to the targets given to the program. So you can see that I will not tell you this year tick in the box. However, I'm very proud and pleased with the progress of this development so far. Commercially, 239 orders in 2013, not a bad result. More than 800 firm orders so far. So we are back on the long range. And when we put that together with the 330, we are leading the wide body market. We think that this aircraft is well positioned in its category, and the family 900-1000 and 800 later will really be unbeatable. The 330. 330 is the most competitive long-range aircraft in this category. And this is a strong pillar of our wide-body leadership. We have sold, I think, close to 80 aircraft last year. We continue to invest in its product policy. We are engaged in two developments. One, you know it, is the 242 tons. It brings additional range, close to 500 nautical miles. It improves the fuel burn, and it has been selected by Delta, who will be the launch customer. We are supposed to deliver the first aircraft in May 2015. We are on track with this objective. The second one was launched in September last year, which is the 330 regional. We came to the conclusion that if we want to support the growth in some markets like China, we need to find competitive solutions to avoid a congestion of the airports. And the 330 is an ideal solution when you use it with a lower takeoff weight, meaning that you reduce the cost, you reduce the maintenance costs, and you are as competitive as the 321, for instance. But you carry 2 times more passengers, and so you can optimize the use of your slots. So we believe there is a big market for a 330 as well for regional and domestic. 320 family, more than 10,000 aircraft already sold. Neo has reached 2,610 net orders. John would tell you that his problem is the slots availability. And CEO, we have sold more than 1,000 aircraft since the launch at the end of 2010 of Neo, so CEO performs also extremely well. It confirms that the 320, both CEO and Neo, leads the show and is the better family on this market. We have also solutions for the customers based on 2 different types of engines. And when we look at the 320 development, 320 Neo, we are on track with good developments of both the Pratt & Whitney and the CFM engines. We had a first challenge, which was to achieve a transition between the CEO and Neo production, maintaining a production rate of the current one, which is rate 42. I think I can tell you today that this objective is achieved, and there is, we believe, an extra potential to increase the production if the market trend remains positive as it was in 2012 and 2013. The 380, so the 380, this aircraft for growth, but also for competitivity of our customers. We have delivered 122 aircraft in total. We had planned 25, we have delivered 25. This program is now, would say, a normal full series production series program. And we have, in 2014, 4 new A380 operators. It will be Asiana, Skymark, Qatar Airways, and Etihad. We maintain the break-even target of the program in 2013, and we will be close to 30 deliveries a year in the next 4 years. So this program is, I think, also confirming all its potential. More globally, you know the trend of the market. We are repeating it, but it is confirmed that what we see, the growth around the world, the traffic growth, which was extremely high in 2013 and higher than the 4.7% in average that we forecast for the next 20 years. you can see also that in each category, the customers tend to select a slightly bigger aircraft. And the 321, as an example, accounts now for close to 40% of the total market of a single aisle. The 330-300 is sold at higher numbers than the 200. And the 900 and the Dash 1000 are well positioned compared to the 787 family. And they are bigger and they attract, I think, a bigger market share. This will also be the case for the A380, I'm convinced. So our families, I believe, are better positioned for bringing the appropriate answers to these market trends. Airbus is not limited to sales and delivering aircraft. It's largely also making sure that we do it in a very efficient way. Günther will give you a few elements on that. I would like to insist on 2 or 3 points only, not to be too long. First of all, innovation. You could see brand new developments, the A380, the A350 in Airbus. I believe that now we need to focus on more incremental improvements of all our programs, from the 320 to the 380. But we need to do it in a way which is more innovative, which comes to the market faster. And this is why I insist a lot on fostering innovation in Airbus. Not just long-term research and technology programs, which are necessary, but also shorter-term breakthroughs through innovation. And I have appointed a Chief Innovation Officer a few months ago, reporting directly to me, which will foster this innovative spirit across the board. Then the developments will remain very important within Airbus, but it will be less risky and based on incremental developments. Clearly, the 320neo is a reference for that, but we will come up with more ideas, faster implementation in the future. A second point is the international footprint of Airbus. I had launched last year the final assembly line of the 320 in Mobile in the United States. This final assembly line is well on track. We have started to train American workers, and we plan to start the operations as planned in 2015 and deliver the first aircraft in 2016, meaning that we will ramp up progressively and be ready in 2018 to increase production if, as we believe, Neo is very, very successful. In China, we have delivered 150 aircraft from Tianjin. 150 aircraft. We are at rate 4, and we are in discussion with our Chinese partners to extend this partnership and this cooperation, to migrate to Neo, and to continue to deliver aircraft from Tianjin for many years from now. The third important point, which at the end of the day is the one who makes the difference, is our people. And you could see many people gathered when we flew the first A350. I'm lucky to have people who have a passion for what they do. And my job is to extract the best out of their passion. Is to align them, is to make sure they work as a team, and it's to make sure that they are empowered in the appropriate way to deliver the performance and remain motivated. You can see that Airbus image is extremely good, and when we look at the engineers, especially in Europe, we are, I think in France, we are #1 for the choices of the young engineers. In Germany, we are getting close to this #1, so we are very attractive. We have recruited 16,500 people for the last 5 years, and especially for the last 3 years. Last year, 3,000 recruitments. Next year, we plan to recruit at least 1,500 people, And we will offer 500 positions to our colleagues from the other divisions, the defense and space, as you know that this entity will have to go through some restructuring. So this is also showing the solidarity that can be demonstrated within a group like Airbus Group. Our people are also very conscious of the social responsibility of a group like Airbus, which has a strong brand internationally. And the Airbus Foundation is, I believe, a very good tool. Everybody has foundations, and we do a lot of things in our communities around the world. But I would like to insist on one thing that we are probably the only one to do, which is to use our aircraft and our network with our customers to fly to areas which are in trouble. You can see Philippines, Syria. Below me, I have an A330 from Philippine Airlines, so our customers contribute to that. But also with our own test aircraft, we fly relief flights, 12 in 2013, 35 in total since 2009. And we have transported only last year 200 tons of goods and medical personnel. And this one, I believe, is also a very good cement for our people. We do things which are useful for the population, transporting, but also supporting and rescuing distressed people. So we have partnerships with NGOs like the Red Cross, like Action contre la faim or Humideka, and we will continue to do so, and I believe this is extremely useful in many, many areas around the world. Last message, even if I'm not, as you know, only a rugby fan, but more a soccer fan, but anyway, Toulouse won, I think, yesterday, so all that is good, even if it was prepared a bit earlier. We belong now to Airbus Group, as the ADS has been rebranded on the 1st of January. And this is, for me, extremely positive. The group has decided to largely focus on Airbus, which accounts for 70% of the business of the group. And not only in terms of business and profitable growth, but in terms of image and value, including Eurocopter, who has decided to change its name into Airbus Helicopters, and of course Airbus Defence and Space. And I believe this one is very positive for us as a mark of recognition, and also very positive for the group in the future. Now it's time to, I think, hand over to you, John.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fabrice. Let's go through some of the numbers quickly. I know that's what you came here for. Of course, we know the 1,619. By the way, that's a record. The previous record, not just for Airbus, was industry record, was 1,608 in 2011. And also the one before that was 1458 in 07. You'll get hard copies of this. 1503 net, the previous record was Airbus in 2011. And the one before that was Boeing in 07. Year-end backlog, Airbus 2012, 4,600 aircraft. Deliveries. This is a record for Airbus, the 626, but many people, even at Airbus, don't realize that it's the second biggest delivery for the industry in the entire history of the industry. When Boeing came in at 648 this year, that set a new record, but we're number 2 with 626, not very far behind. So, I know at dinner last night, people always want to know, how do you get from November to the end of December? So here it is. There are 2 big undisclosed orders to equal about 100 airplanes there. I don't like undisclosed. You've heard me say that before. But the fact is, we only have a little over 100 undisclosed this year. My competitor has about 4 times as many undisclosed in their order book. We do have a cancellation here of United going way back to the old bankruptcy days. They had a right to cancel those airplanes. Air Asia X, you're well aware of the 25 aircraft there. An undisclosed order that will be disclosed in about 60 days for 330s. Air Carib, some 20 A320 NEOs that should be disclosed very soon. The Emirates A380 for 50 aircraft. Turkish 7 A321s. And the Kingfisher order. Not all of it was canceled. There's still some single aisles because speaking with Vijay Mallya, he is still determined to sell his airline. He has an operating certificate, but even if he does sell the airline, we took the decision internally here that he probably doesn't need 380s just right now. So we're taking them out of the order book along with the 350s. That gives us 1,619 gross and 1,503 net orders for the year. In terms of the A320 CO, that's very good, 377. And I want to add to that, we took a very conservative approach. There are 77 American Airlines leases that we have in our order book. We have a commitment with American Airlines to lease these aircraft, COs, to them. But we are intending to sell them down to third parties. So rather than put them in the order book now and then have to reverse it out when we find a leasing company or whomever to do the lease, we decided to not put them in the order book this year, and we'll put them in the order book in 2014, 15, and 16 as we find lessors to take those aircraft and lease them to American. A much more conservative approach to the order book than our competitor is taking in a very similar situation with American. Then, of course, you see the other orders that we have here in terms of the 330, 320. That's very interesting. 77 330s. The A350 order book, very strong, as Fabrice has already pointed out. And, of course, 50 aircraft with Emirates. Before you get to the Q&A, I know everyone's going to say, what happened to Doric? We are finalizing Doric, and I am hopeful that we will have that finalized and announced sometime in the first quarter of 2014. So, putting it all together, here's what the duopoly looks like over the last few years, about 20 years almost now. We're at 51% in terms of gross orders, and Boeing is at 49%. I like to keep that blue line a bit above the yellow line whenever possible. If we look at it on a net basis, we're at 53% to their 47% on a unit basis. Looking at it in more detail, in terms of gross, 51%, in terms of units, 53% in terms of revenue. And then three big categories, of course, the single aisle category, we're at 51 to 49. The wide body category, other than the VLA, we're at 51 to 49. And of course, in the very large aircraft sector, we have 3/4 of that market right now. If you then look at corporate jets to BBJs, it looks like about equally split there. It won't be quite the same on a net basis. And on the Neo Max, we're holding, since the beginning of the program, a 60-40 split. But this year, admittedly, it's a 56-44 split. In terms of 350, very good story there. Almost a 60-40 split in terms of the 350 versus the 787. And a very good story on the 380 on the passenger side, 80% of the market if you just look at the passenger market for the VLAs. On a net, 53% in units, 53% in terms of revenue. By category, single aisle, 53%. And again, that same 56-44 on the Neo and Max. On our corporate jet program, it switches around. I'm not too proud of that. We've got 25% market share there. We're going to revitalize that program over the next year or two, see if we can focus more on selling airplanes rather than just doing interiors for airplanes. In terms of wide bodies, we're at 50-50. And in terms of the VLA, we stay at about that 80% number in terms of the passenger VLAs. Now, deliveries. A lot has been made of the fact that Boeing delivered more airplanes this year. Well, it's about 20 some odd more than we did. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that for a long period of time, we've been delivering the most aircraft, and by a pretty substantial amount if you look at the difference in those numbers. As you go to the right-hand side of the chart, you'll see something rather interesting. The two bars are getting very, very close together. 2012 and 2013. You have to look carefully to see who actually delivered more. And of course, the bars are getting much taller. This industry is getting bigger and bigger year by year. So that drives a very large backlog, as you can see. And look at that CO backlog right now at about 1,700 units, 267 on the A320, and of course 2,600 in terms of the NEO, 800 plus for the A350, 182 backlog on the A380, which gives us an industry record backlog of 5,500 airplanes, basically about 10% more than our competitor. An industry record, as I was just saying. How is it spread out around the world? I think pretty much in balance. The little yellow numbers there, that's our global market forecast of where these aircraft should be. And if you look at most of the world, with the exception of North America, where we're not doing as well as we should be doing there, we're pretty much in balance. I'm a little bit down in Western Europe, which is surprising. We have to look into that in a little more detail. But the rest, Asia Pacific, Middle East, Latin America, all seem to be pretty much in balance with what you would expect from your global market forecast. So looking at the A320 family, every 2 seconds, as we've been talking here, an airplane is taken off or landed somewhere in the world. And they do that with 99.6% dispatch reliability. Over 10,000 firm orders, about 6,000 aircraft delivered, or we'll have that in the next couple months, with a firm order backlog of over 4,000 aircraft. And then, of course, the NEO. We all know the NEO, the best-selling airplane in aviation history, 15% lower fuel burn. It's the most comfortable single aisle, 18-inch wide seats, a bigger aisle, more overhead storage space, more luggage space, more cargo space. And since the beginning of both programs, we're maintaining about a 60-40 split in the market. The market has decided that when it used to be about a 50-50 split between the A320 family and the 737 family, now with the new offering, it's going for a 60-40 split in that market. Why? Well, one of the reasons is that we made a better airplane. If you look at the NG, it's got a 61-inch fan. They improved that to put a 69-inch fan. We have a 68-inch fan already on the CO, but we made it an 81-inch fan. They have a bypass ratio of 9. We get a bypass ratio of 12. The operating weight empty for them is 3.2 tons heavier with a MAX than it is with the NG. We only have to add 1.8 tons. So all in all, without going through a big presentation, you have an airplane that has improved its operating performance vis-a-vis its competitor. Without getting into a big debate about whether a CO is better than an NG, the truth is it is, but they'd argue something different. Most people in the market today say a CO and an NG are about equal. I claim a little bit better, and I'm right. Boeing claims they're a little bit better, and they're wrong. But the fact is most airlines say we're about equal. Wherever you put that line, though, whether they say they're better, whether I say I'm better, the airline says they're equal, we've opened that gap by about 5%. That's why we have the 60-40 market share based on the old numbers of about a 50-50 market share, and we think we'll be able to maintain that in the future. Then we get into the wide body. And this is one, Fabrice commented on it, and it still surprises me. People say, well, yes, we know Airbus dominates the single aisle market, but Boeing dominates the wide body market. Well, if you want to go back 20, 25 years, I guess that was true, but not last year. Nope, they didn't dominate the market. We had 341 orders, and they had about 309 orders. I would say that gives us the lead there. And you say, well, 1 year doesn't make a trend. Well, let's go back about 5 or 6 years and look at net orders. And then you say, well, what about those orders for Emirates for the X that they didn't put in the order book this year? Okay, put those in the order book as well. We still come out on top. Airbus dominates the wide body market as well as it dominates the single aisle market. Just look up the numbers. And then, of course, we have our A330. Everyone tells me, hey, it's about time to re-engine it, don't you think? I don't know. We sold 77 of the airplane this year, and don't forget, we still have 27 blocked in China over the ETS issue that we're waiting for government approval. We hope to have it in the next few months. Then they'll end up in the backlog as well. It's an airplane that sells extremely well. Delta just bought the new 242-ton version with entry into service in 2015. Now, if you look at a 2,000 nautical mile sector, you might say, well, yeah, doesn't the 787-9 burn a little bit less fuel? Yes, it does. But we have lower engine maintenance costs. Remember that Dash 9 was designed to fly all the way to Tokyo. If you're flying regionally, which is where most of these aircraft fly, and you put in our lower capital cost, the seat mile cost actually favors the A330. And then we have the regional version of the airplane. We take it from 242 tons down to 199 tons. Why 199? Because you pay less for en route charges if you stay, and landing fees if you stay under 200 tons. We derate the engine. What happens when you derate an engine? Lower maintenance cost, lower fuel burn. Then we update the cabin, give you a heads-up display, etc. And you come up with the 330 regional. That red circle is where you could get from Beijing nonstop with max packs with a 330 regional. And the blue line is, of course, if you had the full gross weight of 242 tons. As you can see, you can go to east coast of the US, you can do all of Europe for 242 tons. But at the regional market, that's where this airplane is really going to shine. Because here's our current global market forecast. This is the actual numbers today. The largest single market in the world is domestic USA, number 2 on that chart. What happens in 20 years? The largest single market by far is domestic China. Domestic China is already congested today. How is that market going to keep growing if it doesn't use bigger aircraft? And that's what we have. An airplane that, as Fabrice was saying earlier, allows you to move as many people as you could on 2 A321s and do it even more effectively, cost-effectively, efficiently, and only use 1 slot instead of 2 slots. If you look at it at about 2,000 nautical miles, you can see that a 787-9 and a 330-300 at cash operating costs, that's the out-of-pocket fuel and maintenance cost, are about equal. They're about a wash at 2,000 nautical miles when you put 9 abreast in my airplane. But if you put the capital cost on, you can see that they're 12% more expensive. You can't operate aircraft like a 350-900 or a 787-9. You really can't operate them efficiently at 1,000, 2,000 nautical miles. But an awful lot of flights over the next 20 years, wide-body flights are going to be at 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 nautical miles. And then, of course, we have our 350 XWB, 239 orders just in 2013, 800 in the backlog, 39 customers, a very impressive airplane. And as Fabrice is very proud of, as he was the commercial director on this particular account, we broke into Japan, JAL, with the A350, and we're very, very proud of that. It took a long time to get there, and we've finally gotten there with one of the world's best airplanes. Now, I heard in a press conference not too long ago with Jim McNerney commenting that his wide-body family is in the sweet spot right now. He really likes the position he's in. Well, I'd like to differ with him. I think perhaps it's the sweet spots, because for our 3 airplanes, he needs 7 different airplanes to compete. Most airlines today want simplicity and efficiency. They don't want a choice of 7 different models to cover the segment that Airbus can cover with 3 different models. That's one of the reasons why we're dominating the wide-body market. Look at the 350-900. There was a lot of splash this year, or last year, 2013, about a 787-10, optimized for shorter range flying. Well, we happen to have a 350-900 that, as you can see, this is a range payload chart, for those of you not familiar with that, about the same number of seats. They might have about 15 16 more seats on board. We both have about 330 some odd. They have more range, or we have more range here, 600 nautical miles. And then the argument goes, well, what if you don't need the range? Well, my argument would be, turn it into cargo. 16 tons more cargo if you don't need to fly 1,600 nautical miles further. And that's worth $5 million a year. But some people say, well, yeah, but maybe I don't need the cargo either. Then the 787-10 is the better optimized airplane. Well, that's why we came out with the 350-900 regional. That's the range payload chart of an A350-900. That's the range payload chart of a 787-10. And as you can see, they sit right on top of each other. With the regional 350-900, we can offer you exactly the same thing you can get in a 787-10. But if you did change your mind and want to fly 1,600 miles further or carry 16 tons more cargo, you give us a call, we'll sell you more thrust, we'll sell you more takeoff weight, and you can do that too. With the Dash 10, you're stuck with what you bought. And here's the airplane that sort of changed the industry. The 350-1000. It can take the same number of people from London to Singapore as a 777-300ER, but do it about 25% more efficiently. In fact, it takes off about 40 tons lighter with the same number of people. How does it do it? 20 tons less structure because it's carbon fiber, and 20 tons less fuel because it doesn't need to burn it to do the same mission. So something had to be done. Our competitor had to bring out a new product, and they came out with the 777X sometime in the next decade. It'll enter service. Well, look at the 777-300ER and the 350-1000. We're already 20 tons lighter. Now, when they take their 777X, they take the existing airplane, they do a carbon fiber wing, but they have to stretch it. It's about 15 tons heavier than 777-300ER. That makes it 35 tons heavier than a 350-1000. It does, however, carry 35 more passengers. 1 ton per passenger. We think we're in a very good position going forward right now, which is why you don't see us rushing out with 350 1100s or 1200s. We have a very efficient airplane that we think will do extremely well. Of course, we can study stretches in the future, but we've got plenty of time to do that. And here's what the market is actually saying. This is a quote from Lufthansa, one of the launch customers of the 777-9X. They say it has comparable fuel burn to the A350-900, which they also bought, 2.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Well, I might say we're slightly better than that, but okay, let's take the Lufthansa number. Equal fuel burn to a 777-9X. I draw your attention to the lower point on the chart. Which airplane has 5% lower than that horizontal line? The 350-1000. 5% lower fuel burn than our 350-900, 5% lower fuel burn than the 777-9X. Then, of course, last but not least, we have the flagship of the 21st century, the A380. 300 orders, a backlog of 182, 19 customers. And what's the case for this airplane? The case for this airplane is that air traffic doubles every 15 years. As Fabrice said, maybe it's every 10 years now. It sure was going at a better rate in 2013. How are you going to get more people, twice as many people, into Charles de Gaulle, twice as many people into London Heathrow, JFK, Singapore, Hong Kong? We're just magically going to have twice as many airplanes flying around 15 years from now? No, we're not. We have to go to bigger aircraft. There are 42 cities around the world that carry 93% of all the long-haul traffic right now. 42 cities today. That's where the A380 is operating. 20 years from now, it'll be 89 cities. And it'll be carrying 99% of all the long-haul traffic. So much for fragmentation. But point-to-point flying in and among those 99 cities is exactly what the A380 is going to do. And it's going to do it extremely comfortably. Well, here's our order book, or in terms of the backlog right now, or rather total orders. We've got about 72% of the market. But remember, we do not have a freighter. If you look at just the passenger version, and I'll even throw in VIPs, they did sell a bunch of VIPs down in the Middle East, we have 86% of the market of the 380 versus the 747-8. Why do we have that? Well, because it takes an A380 to compete with an A380. And think about it yourself. If you're going on a trip this afternoon and there's an A380 on that route, wouldn't you select to fly on that A380? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to just pick up from what Fabrice and John had said and just talk a little bit about where we are on deliveries. If I can get this to change. Can we have the next slide? Oh, here we go. And again. There we go. I think John talked briefly on that one, so I'll not waste too much time and just skip on. 626 deliveries. You saw there the 493 on the single aisle family. That's a record for any civil aircraft program anywhere in the world. So it's another new record for us. And I think really coming from strong performance last year in improvement in the supply chain. And Gunther will talk a little bit more about the things that we did. I think you recall last year in the press conference, we talked about some of the strains that we'd gone through in 2012. I think with a lot of actions launched, we had a much smoother flow, and we certainly avoided the very intense year end that we'd had in 2012, a much more controlled situation in 2013. And that gives us a lot of confidence as we look at the delivery stream in the future. 330 continues to be very good, 108 aircraft. And the 380 at 25, you may comment, well, that's down a little bit from the previous year, but you remember we had been working our way through the wing rib problem in 2012. I'm pleased to say that's fully behind us now, completely under control, and you'll see us come back to higher levels of delivery on 380 in the coming years, in line with our expectation to be around 30, as mentioned by Fabrice. So I think the 380s does really start to now become a steady serial production program. Some key milestones: the 100th A380 went to Malaysian Airlines, the 1000th A330 to Cathay Pacific, and of course our 8000th delivery of A320, incidentally with Sharklets to AirAsia. And in addition to that, our FAL in China continues to perform very well. We're delighted with the quality and the operational reliability of our aircraft coming out of Tianjin, and we've now delivered 150. The 320, certainly the main progress and focus there, of course, in terms of deliveries, almost 6,000. Rate 42, I think, well stabilized. The 321, I think the comment made by both Fabrice and John is the trend towards bigger aircraft. And certainly the challenge we're putting on our production teams is how can we get to a situation where about half of our capacity on single aisle should be available for 321s, so that we can give ourselves the flexibility to respond to a strong trend in that market. The transition to NEO, we expect to have that done as we go through 2018. And I think the developments are well on track. You know that we expect to do our first flight in Q4 of this year, and all of the major components are now starting to be delivered into the FAL, and we're still very much on target for our EIS date in Q4 of 2015. Sharklets, we've delivered 250 Sharklet-equipped aircraft, and now you'll find it difficult to go around our production lines and find an aircraft not equipped with Sharklets, something like 90% of our activity. And in fact, in response to customers, you'll recall last year we also launched a retrofit program for those customers that are flying with the old pre-Sharklet aircraft. There's been quite a strong interest in having an in-service retrofit program. And of course, we continue to invest strongly in the 320 family, around 300 million a year. Again, looking at incremental improvement, trying to bring improvements to the product as quickly as possible for the best benefit for the customer. 250 A320s delivered to over 50 customers, and in fact our fuel burn improvement better than expected. We had a plan to be around 3.5%. we're consistently getting over 4%. And of course, if you're flying longer range missions, we've got customers who see 4.2 and even 4.3 improvement in fuel burn. The 330, still, I think, highly reliable aircraft, 99.2, 99.3 in terms of operational reliability, a real money-making machine for the customers that have it. So stable production, highest production rate of any wide-body program. The 242-ton will be ready for EIS with Delta next year, and we're excited about how that's progressing. And of course, the regional aircraft, as outlined by Fabrice, we think we have a strong product there. And we continue to invest, of course, about 150 million a year in R&D for that program. 380, as I said, now comes to a run rate in standard program. 25 aircraft, exactly in line with our promise for last year. 122 aircraft delivered in total. British Airways, of course, became our 10th new operator, and of course 4 new operators will come along this year, and we're excited to see the fleet expanding, and I think now good operational reliability, and I think still seen as being the standard for choice for most of the travelling public. Hand you on now to Günther to talk about some of the things that we're doing in terms of maintaining that drive.
Tom, thanks a lot for the introduction. It has already been mentioned, 626 aircraft delivered, a new delivery record. It equals a plus of 6.5%, or a plus of 38 additional aircraft delivered, which is the equivalent of a mid-size airline. A great achievement from a program, as mentioned by Tom, a great achievement from a sales, but also, and in particular, a great achievement from an operations point of view. It's a remarkable achievement because of the fact that we increased it with the same industrial setup and with the same product portfolio. That means we have been able in the year 2013 to implement some structural improvements on efficiency. And you might ask the question, what have been these improvements, or what has been done differently? Firstly, it has already been mentioned, we have changed the way of working with our suppliers. Today's supply chain is much more robust, is much more reliable than ever before, or in other terms, in other words, our joint investment with our suppliers in the supply chain, in the supply base as such, is nicely paying off. Secondly, we have simplified our own internal processes. We have been reducing the interfaces, and we have managed to improve on the lead times across the organization, but also, and in particular, in development. One of the good examples has already been mentioned, the introduction and the ramp-up of the sharklets. The sharklet on the A321, you have just seen all the different sharklet pictures that have already been delivered to the customers. Took actually just 1 year from the prototype to the entry into service. And thirdly, a year ago, we talked about significant changes to our organizational structure. In the meanwhile, the new organization is fully in play. And just as one example, our plant leaders and the file managers and their cross-functional senior management teams have much more autonomy to act and to decide. But as has already been highlighted, we are in a highly competitive environment. So even on the basis of last year's successes, there's no time, there's no chance to actually lean back and to relax. Therefore, in my area of responsibility, which includes manufacturing, engineering, quality, procurement. What are our ambitions in the year 2014? And without getting you too much into the details of the operations, I would just try to highlight the most important ones. First of all, we have prepared ourselves to actually produce at least as many aircraft as in the year 2013. But secondly, much more important, we would like to further improve our efficiency. Most notably, on the A380, we get ready to meet break even in the year 2015 on a delivery rate of 30 aircraft. These pretty much serious program-related issues would already be more than sufficient to give us a full and very busy agenda. But on top, we have to manage the introduction of 2 new developments. As already highlighted by Fabrice, we are ramping up our A350, and we are building, as we speak, the first major component constituent assemblies for the Neo, which we will all see up in the air during the course of this year. So as you can see, very ambitious targets, a very busy agenda. We have for this year, it's all about improving on our global competitiveness. It's about further improving on efficiency and effectiveness. Or to come back what Fabrice said at the beginning, in the year 2014, we will continue our journey in order to make our organization even faster, even simpler, and more agile. Thanks for your attention, and back to Fabrice.
Thank you, Günther. Last slide, but I will be very short. We were much too long. 2014, so we start with a 350. You have understood we need to certify and deliver the aircraft, and not only deliver one aircraft, prepare for the ramp up in 15, 16, 17, 18. Second, we passed a very important gate at the very end of last year regarding the development of the Dash 1000. So we need now to go into the detailed design, so it will be a busy year on that, and then progressively we'll move to production and assembly of this first aircraft in 2015. Second, 320neo, Tom mentioned it, we're on track, first flight in autumn, very important milestone, so with the first engine, the GTF of Pratt. 330, the 242 tons variant will take shape. Deliveries, we believe that we will deliver a level which is similar to what we achieved in 2013. The 350 will not weigh in these deliveries in quantities, and the rest is pretty stable. Then, regarding the orders, John tried hard to explain to me that with a book-to-bill ratio of 2.5 in 13, he had already achieved his targets for 14.
Absolutely.
However, I believe he is ready to take the challenge to have a book-to-bill in 2014, which will be higher than 1. Clearly, we don't expect 1,500 net orders in 2014. Would not probably be in line with the market trend. But reinforcing again our global backlog is, I believe, a fair challenge for the commercial teams. So globally, we are well on track. We have a clear roadmap, including, as Günther and Tom described, internally continuing to progress, and I wish that we'll have also a very successful 2014 year, which will pave the way for the launch of the Neo and the 350 which will be the two probably best products for the profitability of Airbus for the next 15-20 years. Thank you very much, and we are now ready to take your questions.
So let's start the Q&A session now. First to the audience here in the room, but we have also questions connected from the outside, from worldwide. And the first question goes to the colleague over there.
Yes, hello, Thomas Hanke from Handelsblatt sitting here. I would like to ask you a quick question on the issue of the remotoring of the A330. What is your exact message? Is it not now, but definitely later, or is it not now, maybe later, or is it neither now nor later?
I'm not sure we passed a message on the 330 re-engineering. We passed a message on, first of all, the fact that the 330 is selling very well. This is the aircraft of choice for many, many airlines for long-range missions. That it is more competitive than the 787-8. This has been demonstrated by John. And now this is understood by the market, that we are investing in this product family on both extending range but also regional. Yes, some people tell us you should re-engine the 330, but this is not in our short-term plans. However, I have people studying many, many things which will never come true. But this is not the main option for this 330 program and 330 family.
Next question to our colleague over there.
Yes, my name is Katsuki, working with NHK Japanese TV. I have a question to Mr. President. You said several times about the contract with Japan Airlines, and how do you think about the importance of the Japanese market? And I think the market sharing of the Japanese market is not so high. And what is your strategy to increase it? Thank you.
You're absolutely right. Our market share is not high. But I believe that in the long run, there is no reason why our market share in Japan would be different from our market share around the world. It will take time. Look at the low-cost carriers in Japan. They have started their operations, and the 320 is the aircraft of choice. It's with a market share which is close, I think, to 80%, yes, probably. Then this breakthrough with the 350 means that, including in the long-range market, we expect progressively, over the next 20 years, for instance, to get closer to 50% market share. Now, every airline in the world is subject to intense competition from competitors who don't belong to the same country. And they need to take the best possible aircraft for their operations. This is what we see in Europe. We don't have in Europe airlines who buy only Airbus products. This is what we see in America. And this is what we will see and continue to see in Japan.
Next question in the room. Otherwise, we give the floor to our colleagues who represent the group today. Jacques?
Yes, we have already several questions, and the first one is, how do Airbus see aviation market in Indonesia?
Indonesia? The Indonesian market is growing rather rapidly. Remember, it's a group of islands, so you aren't going to go from point A to point B very readily by train or by highway. So it's ideal for aviation. It happens to be the fourth largest country in the world after you get China, India, and the United States. It's been one that has been growing very slowly in aviation, but in the last few years it has taken off. There are low-cost carriers there. We're very proud of our Lion Air order, etc. But also Air Asia is operating in there. So we would have very, very high hopes for the Indonesian market.
Next question goes to Robert Wall from Bloomberg.
Yeah, good morning. I had two questions. One's actually a follow-up to Mr. Butchek's comments on the 380 efficiencies that you're seeking this year. I'm wondering, I thought you had already put in place the efficiency efforts to make the break-even target. So I'm wondering why you need additional ones, and is that because you're probably going to fall slightly short of the 30 deliveries next year? And then the other question is, I guess, for Fabrice. The last few weeks, obviously, your competitor has gotten its agreement and production issues sorted out more or less on the 777X, and as part of that, has obviously gotten a pretty a tax deal again out of Washington State, and that's something in the past you've obviously challenged with the WTO. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this latest tax rebate, if you plan to challenge it, and especially the size of the deal.
Thanks for the question, because it gives me the chance to clarify what I at least intended to say. Yes, we have taken the necessary efficiency improvement measures on all programs, also on the A380 already in the last years. And what I meant with my statement is that in 2014 we will continue with our effort to further improve efficiency. And what I said as an example, it will be most notably the way we can overall improve the efficiency of the organization on the A380, meeting break even on the basis of 30 deliveries in 2015. So it's perfectly in line to what you said and what your previous understanding was all about.
777X, wow. I think there is something a bit cynical, trying to claim for level playing field, trigger a legal dispute at WTO level, largely lose the case, have a clear WTO statement that the 787 support mechanisms, which are pure subsidies, are illegal, and not only do the same mechanisms with the 777X, but extend it. Congratulations, because investing $4 or $5 million and getting twice the level of subsidies is fantastic. So I reserve my position on what we should ask the European Commission to say, but I just believe it's incredibly cynical. And we need a level playing field in this business.
Another question here in the room. Andrea?
Andrea Rothman, Bloomberg News. Can you tell us where you stand on negotiations for the FAL continuing in Tianjin in China? I thought last year you were supposed to wrap up an agreement to continue that, a definitive agreement by the end of the year, and we haven't seen anything. And also, what kind of orders are you looking at getting over the next year? We haven't seen any very large.
Well, you are right, we have an agreement in principle, but we need to make sure that the details are worked out. So I expect it will take place this year. The principle is that we have a fantastic tool over there, and as you could see, 150 aircraft delivered. I believe among this audience, not so many would have said yes, they will deliver on what they plan. This has been achieved. And this is part of our industrial footprint worldwide and not limited to China. So the principle is that we will extend our operations at the same production rate for additional use to be defined, and we will progressively assemble NEO aircraft as well. So probably this year.
The next question goes to our colleagues from the globe.
We've got a question from Germany. How many A380s do you expect to sell this year, and how many of that will be to new A380 customers? Will you adapt the A380 product offering to make it more desirable for airlines?
In terms of the spirit of what we've been saying, book-to-bill of 1, Tom and Günther are going to produce about 30 A380s this year, so I think an order intake of about 30 is appropriate.
Next question in the room. Front row.
Thanks. It's Ben Griffiths from the Daily Mail. I'm just wondering how content you are that the UK remains the centre of excellence for wing technology, and whether you thought that other Airbus partner nations would get a look in going forward. And secondly, could one of you just explain what you're hoping to achieve at the Farnborough Air Show this year, please?
Are we going to give it to Tom?
I think in terms of the UK specific question, clearly from my point of view, we've got a massive investment in the UK. It remains our centre of excellence for wing technology, and I don't think there's been ever any plan to change that. So I don't see any strategic change of direction. We've continued with the path that we've always had. The key issue is, of course, for the UK to continue to be a competitive place to do business.
The second part, Farnborough Air Show.
What was the question about Farnborough?
There was a prospect on Farnborough Air Show. What we expect?
In order.
We expect to have a nice air show, and we hope it doesn't rain.
Okay. Andrea.
Two questions here. One, you never did get that money from Germany for the A350. Have you basically decided that you don't need that and you'll just move on and without that, or are you still talking to them about it? And secondly, I know that Al Nippon is also looking at buying large twin-aisle planes. Fabrice, will you also be the commercial director on that campaign?
No. On the first one, we tried. We didn't come to an agreement. So for me, the subject is over. But I refer to what I said before, that the RLIs were a part of a mechanism to try to have a level playing field. And what we see is on the one hand, we don't get what was promised, and on the other hand, our competitor gets even much higher amounts than they got on the 787. So this is questioning what Tom said. I mean, Europe must remain a competitive place to do business.
Next question goes to Tim Heffer.
Hi, Tim Heffer from Reuters. Fabrice, you mentioned that I think you said it was incredibly cynical of Boeing to take all this money from Washington State. Can you see how some people might think that it's also cynical for Airbus to take similar contributions from Alabama? And doesn't that undermine your case at the WTO? The second question is, you mentioned the 60-40 preferred split again, John, in single aisle. Given your relative production plans at the moment, when do you expect that to actually be reflected, if ever, in deliveries? If I'm not mistaken, if Boeing kept to its plan for 47 a month and had a market share of 40%, you would have to produce 70. Isn't that just pie in the sky?
Well, perhaps the 47 is wrong, but I'll go back to Fabrice here for the first part of your question.
Well, first of all, the support we enjoy from Alabama is legal, and has it be judged illegal by WTO. Second, the amounts are disproportionate. You compare the equivalent of $100 million, something like that, to $9 billion support from Washington State. So I think your comment is irrelevant, honestly, Tim.
The next question goes to German Handelsblatt. Sorry.
Delivery question? I think we just.
Well, as we've said many times in the past, Tim, we don't decide, like I guess the automobile manufacturers do, and perhaps even some aircraft manufacturers, that they're going to produce so many airplanes a year and let's hope we can sell them. We decide to sell them and then we'll produce them. So as our backlog builds, of course, we'll be looking at an increase in production.
The next question goes to German Handelsblatt.
Yes, hello. You said that the talks about the subsidies from Germany are over. So what does it mean for the work share for the German plants. Does it mean that the work share, especially for the A350-1000, will be smaller?
I can understand you are interested in this subject, but as I said, it's over. It's over since July, August, and so I don't want to reopen the discussions. Airbus and Airbus groups are managed in a way that we optimize our competitivity. We take, of course, account of the support we enjoy or we don't enjoy around the world, like any other company.
The last question goes to our colleagues from the globe.
Yes, a question related to the A350 program. When will the A350-800 enter into service? Still planned for 2016 or dead?
No, it's still planned 2016. However, we see that, especially with the last decision of US Airways to convert 800s into 900, with what I explained on the trend of a market, probably the size of a Dash 800 market is smaller than we initially planned. So we are committed to the 800, we have customers, we have selected this aircraft, but the backlog is reducing, and so this is why we give priority to the 900 and the Dash 1000.
And before we close the press conference, John has something to announce.
Thank you, Stefan. As long as things are going so well, we're raising the price of our aircraft by 2.6%, effective January now. It's in line with our escalation formula. Some people have noted that perhaps in Europe inflation has been somewhat lower than that, but we're using a formula based on US aerospace indices. So the price increase is 2.6% across all models effective January 2014. And a release is being issued now on that too.
And apropos the press releases you have seen in your inboxes, you will find also prints on the table outside, also the backgrounders. The presentations will be uploaded on the website. And for the interviews which are scheduled now, we have interviews following your request set up with Fabrice Bregier. Here we meet at interview point 1 outside. For John, it's interview point 2. And then I close this press conference for today. And I thank you for traveling here, for being with us. The whole press conference is also still live available on the internet for if you want to follow up something. Thank you, Fabrice. Thank you, Günther. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom, for being here with us. And I close this press conference for today.